Stormy Daniels showing the acting chops that led her to adult films, I suppose. Our panel is with me. Senator Santorum, let's start just with the basic idea of the scandal. Forget Stormy Daniels' performance on SNL, if you would. There have been a lot of conflicting stories about what the president knew about this payment, when he knew about this payment. You heard Kellyanne Conway trying to say that when the president in April on the Air Force One was asked about it, he was just talking about what he knew back in October 2016 and not the present day. Does this concern you? I've heard you express concern about the president and his issues with sticking to facts. Does this concern you?
Look, I think everyone on the Republican side would love to see this go away, and the best way for this to go away is for just to put out the information, settle the case. Here's what I knew and when I knew it, and move on. I don't think the American public cares much about this. I think they discounted this, the idea that Stormy Daniels' revelation before the election was going to make any difference, given the Access Hollywood tapes and everything else that was out there about the president. None of this would have made a difference.
And they dissemble, they spin, they have conflicting stories, and I still don't have a real idea of when President Trump knew and what he knew. And Kellyanne Conway didn't offer much elucidation in terms of when he actually learned about this payment.
Yeah, I think the president is now panicking. So he's losing lawyers left and right. No one wants to come to his defense. So he hired an individual who he didn't see as fit to be Attorney General or Secretary of State. And he brings him in. Why? Because he fired Brett Bahara, thinking that Brett wouldn't cooperate. And he thinks Giuliani, who looked like he leaked certain things before, has some contact within the the Southern District's office to try to get some information. And then it's backfiring on him because after having a conversation and thinking they can get out in front of a story that they know is going to come out, he made the statements that he made, and then he tries to walk that back. So generally when you lie a lot, you get caught in those lies, and that's what's happening here.
And let me see, I want to play some sound of Giuliani this morning, and his basic point is, I'm his lawyer, the lies to the American people don't matter because they're not a legal issue. Take a listen.
I don't know when the president learned about it. He could have learned about it after or not connected the whole thing at that time. The reality is, those are not facts that worry me as a lawyer. Those don't amount to anything, what is said to the press. That's political.
Lying to the American people doesn't matter to him is essentially what he's saying. Because that's not a legal issue. It's not against the law to lie to the American people.
That might be true. But look, Rudy Giuliani is having a difficult time transitioning from being a pundit, which he has been for the past few years, to being the lawyer for the embattled president of the United States, and knowing what to talk about, when to talk about it, what to say, what not to say, getting your facts straight before you go on television and talking about it. And among all of these revelations on Comey, on Stormy Daniels, on Michael Cohen, as you discussed, the getting out in front of the North Korean prisoner hostage is deeply, deeply alarming. Lives are at stake. If there's one thing you don't go off and sort of shoot your mouth off about, it's a prisoner release, a prisoner of war. I mean, these are lives at stake. Rudy Giuliani needs to get back into lawyer mode, help his client, and only speak of that which he knows.
What do you make of all of this? Do you think actually that this is going to have any effect on the American people? We've already heard Kellyanne Conway and Senator Blunt say this morning, hey, look, he's doing what he said he would do. The economy is improving. He's working on North Korea, et cetera. That matters more than lies he tells. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what they were saying.
We've gotten to the point where the lies are so great, not only in number, but in frequency, that it is difficult, if not impossible, for anyone to believe anything that this president or this administration says on any topic, whether it be North Korea, whether it be the economy, whether it be Stormy Daniels or anything else. There is zero credibility here, and that is extremely damaging to our country, to our democracy. And I gotta say, it's also really offensive. Clearly to the Americans who did not vote for Trump or support him, but especially to the ones who did. They put a lot of faith in him. They took a chance on him, and he repays them by lying to them on a daily basis and insulting them. How stupid does he think they are to believe to believe all of this stuff. It's just infuriating, really.
Senator, when you ran for president, you enjoyed the support of evangelicals, of people who try to live a moral life according to the good book, as well as not just evangelicals, Catholics as well, but people of faith. One group that has not lost faith in this president are those voters, even though, I mean, he's making Bill Clinton, you know, look like a choir boy. I mean, an affair with a porn star and the Playboy Playmate of the Year, lying about it, hush payments. I'm not excusing the Clinton years, but I mean, this is just bonkers.
Yeah, and you might even go back to the Clinton years in the compartmentalization that happened to voters on the other side of the aisle, which is, yeah, we don't like any of the. I mean, I saw very few Democrats defending Bill Clinton on the substance of the allegations with Monica Lewinsky and others, but they compartmentalized by saying, yeah, but he's a great president on the things we really care about.
Right.
And therefore, we're going to stick with him. That's going on here, too. Now, you can say, well, the Democrats were never claimed to be moral, and therefore, you know, we shouldn't be. It's a different standard for evangelicals. People care about what affects them, and they don't like what Bill Clinton did. Nobody did. Nobody likes what Donald Trump. Nobody likes it. But they're looking at, well, how does this man impact me and my family when it comes to the issues that are most important to me? And you can say, well, they should have a different standard. I can make the argument that Democrats, I assume, are moral people too, and they should have a different standard back in 1990s. They didn't. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we can all have a debate, frankly, in both parties. I don't think it's a good thing. I think we should hold our leaders to a higher standard, but that's not what happened.
I want to change the subject just for 1 second, which is Senator John McCain is obviously in Arizona. He's recuperating and trying to heal from his battle with cancer. Obviously, everybody here, Senator, I know you watch a lot of CNN. Everybody here is pulling for you and rooting for you.
Great.
And I'm putting aside anything else that I read in the paper other than we're all still pulling for you. But the tension between him and Donald Trump has come up, both in the book that's been released and the things he is saying in this new book, but also there are questions about, and this has been reported now in the New York Times and elsewhere, that the plan would be to have Mike Pence be the one to honor Senator McCain in the hopefully long from now event of his demise. This is a real moment for the country where an American hero, somebody who is beloved in many, many ways, is saying, I don't want this guy at my funeral.
Well, you know, Senator McCain is known for being honest, just the opposite of Donald Trump, and frank. When someone would come up with something, saying something negative about President Obama, he corrected them. And so I wouldn't expect anything to be different for Mr. McCain, Senator McCain, now. He is not going to be a hypocrite. He does not believe that Donald Trump represents the kind of moral authority that the President of the United States should represent for our country and the rest of the world. And so it would be hypocritical of him then, which would be a mischaracterization of who he is, to say, I'm going to allow this guy to be at my funeral. He wants someone who is honest and forthright. You don't have to agree with Senator McCain. You know, he just wants you to be honest. And that's why he's been a successful senator working across the aisles with Democrats for his entire senatorial career.
He is not a sellout. And I think having President Trump, just because he's the president, come speak on his behalf or eulogize him or memorialize him would be selling out. And Senator McCain, I say this not just as his daughter's best friend, but as a Republican who supported him. Senator McCain is everything that President Trump is not, in every way that you discussed, in every way you can imagine. And so in these final hours, in these final days, weeks, we hope months.
We hope years.
We sure do. You know, he is having those very real thoughts and conversations with friends and family, friends like Lindsey Graham and Joe Lieberman, people that have been around him for a really long time, and making the best decisions for him and his family.
It's tough to talk about, but Senator McCain, we're all pulling for you here, and we're all thinking about you. President Trump seems to have a special knack for getting a glowing medical report, but he's been having a little trouble with his physicians as of late. So what exactly are the criteria for treating the healthiest individual ever elected to the presidency, quote unquote? That's the subject of this week's State of the Cartoonian. Welcome back. President Trump seems to have an issue with his doctors. That's the subject of this week's State of the Cartoonian. This week, President Trump's former personal doctor said his office had been robbed by by a White House aide and others looking for the president's medical files.
All his medical records, his pictures, anything they could find. They must have been here for 25 to 30 minutes.
The White House claims this was all standard procedure, but it got us wondering, what exactly does the president look for when choosing a medical professional? Is it a physician with a loose understanding of doctor-patient confidentiality?
It certainly is not a breach of medical trust to tell somebody they take Propecia to grow their hair. What's the matter with that?
Look at a beautiful head of hair on that guy.
Or an MD who's skilled at taking dictation, perhaps. Quote, the healthiest individual ever elected to the presidency.
My health has been very good and very strong.
Or maybe the president's top medical criteria is just a doctor who shares the billionaire's superlative opinion of his own physical specimen.
It's called genetics. I don't know. It's some people have, just great genes. You might live to be 200 years old. I don't know.
After all, when it comes to medical opinions, President Trump certainly had no problem playing doctor for his political opponent, Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton does not have the stamina, doesn't have the energy, doesn't have the strength to be president.
Thanks for joining us for Read Zakaria. GPS starts right now.